Prayer, a long-held tradition that was practiced virtually everywhere in the entire world until the recent past, but has now become extinct or very close to it in many parts of the world. That even in the places where it still thrives, has had its most prevalent form morphed into something very different in nature from what it once was, turning from a thing of worship to an appeal for things from the divine. Alas, prayer is something that is good, and in this video I, the great and brilliant Selko, shall tell why I believe this to be, why I believe that the ethos of prayer, whether there be a god or not, is good, even though I also know there is a god, but that is a topic for another day. The main reasons that we can conclude that prayer or worship as a whole possesses an ethos of good is 1. Because it is a recognition of and identification to something greater than individual self-centered pleasure, and 2. Because it is an action, and an action endowed with good intent and good qualities like love, and 3. It exemplifies, perpetuates, and promotes many good traits. Breaking that down, the first reason, recognition and dedication to greater, is something good because it places something over the self and puts dedication to it before dedication to the self. It is a doctrine oriented towards selflessness in higher things beyond any one individual human, in the direction of living in a manner not glorifying the self and worshipping it, unlike the self-worship of modern self-love culture, but living in a greater order, as a part of a superior structure, finding a place in the world instead of trying to become the world. Traditional prayer or general worship being about the aggrandization and appreciation of something higher and better than the self, also being an acknowledgement that not everything has to revolve around the self, also leading to a realization that not everything has to revolve around the self feeling direct pleasure, and that benefit to something else instead of the self can feel just as good and better than benefit to the sphere of the self. This ethos of prayer forcing its performance to acknowledge that they aren't the be-all end-all of everything, and that there are more important and valuable things than them and their feelings, acknowledging that there are better things to have devotion to, by having them participate in worship, which is dedication to one of these worthier things. This is the greatest essence and quality of prayer. Breaking down the second. Being good action. This for starters has a lot to do with things like action and activity being good, and inaction and inactivity being bad. And as prayer is an action, it has the attribute of imbuing people participating in it with the moral of activity. And it also gives a moral benefit related to the previous point of dedicating oneself to something greater than oneself, and from doing something for another that isn't directly beneficial for the self. And lastly, breaking down the furthering of good traits. This is firstly in part related to the first one again, of furthering the positive traits of dedicating oneself to the superior essence, instead of the little individual self, and the principle of not making every action have to in some way be directly beneficial to the self, before it becomes something that reaches into the territory of being an action that would possibly be taken. Prayer also teaches the trait of discipline, which I definitely need to build. Look at my upload schedule. But the act of constantly and consistently doing something, integrating it into one's schedule like a must, something that can't be skipped in the same vein as eating and drinking can't be skipped, and doing so with anything that is beneficial, is one of the greatest possible things one can do. One of the greatest traits one can have. Discipline is such a great trait because it is a trait that in essence is just to routinely do good things, and thus anything that helps train discipline is something very useful. And thus prayer being dedication to higher, helping to find one's place instead of trying to create a place above all else, and being one of the most essentially pure and good actions in the world that also helps further habits of good essence, is a fundamentally good thing,